Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Oh,
I know.
we're
I
good
didn't
now.
I didn't buy the full paid version because
Is it like super
um
expensive?
it's not super expensive, but I'm super poor.
Oh,
So
well, that'll explain a lot. So what?
gotcha. Yeah.
Who?
So yeah, we have about 40 minutes here. So yeah,
All
Sven, do you
right.
want to introduce yourself and tell us like what you got going on, who you are and whatnot?
Yeah. Well, I'm Sven Sharpen. It's going to be a little echoey in this room and shaky because I don't have the equipment that I would normally have. I'm in a different house right now. So until I get back to my normal house, I'm kind of stuck with this problem. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was forced. I'm 14 years old. That's late childhood. I was forced to move schools for no reason other than I'm on the spectrum and I absolutely must have special education programs or else I'm going to fail as a person. At least that's the existing narrative, even though that turned out to not be true. And what they ended up actually doing was creating, a super serious depression that included suicidal ideation. I lost 4 years of socialization down the drain and it was all done against the will of my parents. It was done against the will of my family, and my parents were threatened with the failure that I mentioned that I'm going to do so terribly academically, socially, and just as a person without this special ed program that they didn't even want to try. And my parents were sort of rolled over. They were given no other option. And so this put me in a deep depression. I lost my relationships for over a year, and what I can only describe this as the prelude to trans identification. And even though I did not identify as trans, I did become fixated with it for a while during this time.
The lack of
And I was like,
socialization. Did you have a lot of like intersex interactions at the new school that you went to?
oh, like interactions with women and
Yes, or
girls.
girls? Yes.
Yeah, well, I felt I fit in more with the girls for this time. So, I
You
mean, a
felt
lot of it
you
was
fit in more with the
because
girls. Did you have a
often,
lot of
yeah, and
girlfriends?
I wanted to date some of them too. It even just really just one. All I wanted was to date one of them and then be friends with the rest. And yeah, and I couldn't really make guy friends because this was during Fortnite and it was 2018, so I had a hard time making friends a lot of because of that and
In
just
person.
because it was yeah, in person. It was almost like the forced separation. We all remember during COVID when this was happening to everybody, but just imagine if that sort of went on for your whole childhood. You were in and out of school and it was only happening to you because of a diagnosis and not because something was going around.
And you think that because they put you in the special needs school, that actually exacerbated some of your tendencies? It may actually made you less social,
Yes,
which in
in a way. Well, I
and
wasn't
autism
in,
is a social disorder. Basically, it's partly a social disorder. It's like it's tendency towards like very systematic sort of thinking, and so you're not
yeah,
very well adapted towards like a complex person. Yeah, which is full of
yeah, that's
contradictions.
sort of what it is. But all they really did was make existing problems worse. And I mean, it wasn't a sped school, it was one public school versus another public school. This wasn't a choice between a public school and a special education segregated school. It was two public schools that act the same, especially today. And I could not go to one public school with the exact same material just because it didn't have what's called an effective needs program. It's not quite severe special needs or SSN. AN is for those of us who are not quite as dysfunctional, for lack of a better way to describe it, as SSN, but it's still forced on you because of your diagnosis. And you still often get below grade level treatment. Like, I remember in fifth grade, I was given a preschool level assignment. This only happened to me. I was the only kid in the room, and I told them I'm way too smart for this, and yet they didn't listen at all. So that was happening. But at this wrong school, like it was still another public school. It was just in a different city. I mean, it was only about 25 miles away from the other public school, but my family didn't move. We didn't change houses. We still live in the exact same place, in the same town. It's just I was forced to move schools where instead of driving, 15 miles north, I'd be driving 15 miles west instead.
And you said so the school, the curriculum, all that is basically the same, but you're saying do they have like some special help there that the other school didn't, or some like adjusted curriculum? Like you still
Well,
attended
yeah, it
normal classes
was,
and everything.
yeah, well, I still went to normal classes even if I was being monitored,
Okay, okay, okay. So you had a monitor. So at this new school you had a monitor,
pretty
basically.
much.
Did
And it
they
was like this
intervene a
for,
lot? In your sense is that their intervention was not helpful? Was it neutral? Was it bad? You said it was
well,
bad.
it would definitely wasn't helpful as much as I think they would have thought. They definitely did not help me as much. And they were punishing me for things that pretty much every kid does. Every kid slacks off in school, and I'm the
Yeah.
only one being seriously punished for it.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. You know, I'm because there's a million things that don't work. I'm most interested in things that actually are effective. Have you been able to take steps to better socialize yourself since, you think?
Well, first of all, I read social cues better than most peers, even if I'm doing something wrong. Surely there's a few things I'm doing wrong.
Yeah.
Um, what was I saying?
And
Uh,
even if you can read someone's social cues, doesn't necessarily mean that you should act on them.
yeah, yeah. I might not necessarily act them, and usually they're always focused on each other, so it's really hard for me to get in.
Yeah.
It's like this every time I'm socializing, at least trying to, because they've
Yeah.
had these friends for many years. I've never had a friend longer than 10 years, like if even at all. Like the longest friendship I've had, like I've never went to his house once, even if he's been to my house like four times.
Oh wow. Wow.
Like
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, for me, I know
it's
growing up, I
really
moved a lot, and
yeah.
that had some deleterious effects, I think, as far as like even wanting to reach out and make new friends. Because I think subconsciously, I know it's like, well,
Yeah.
they're not gonna, I'm not gonna be getting to know them on a deep enough level, or it's gonna be matter, I think.
Yeah. So, but my problem was here's what was going on. I wasn't really moving much. I lived in the same place since I was 10 years old. I still live there today. And I lived in the other house for 5 years. That's definitely enough time to make relationships. And yet,
Yeah.
I didn't really get very far with those. So, like, only in like the sort of, I moved at 2, 4, and 10. That's it. Those are the only times in my, you know, what do I call it? Self-aware childhood that I moved. Only 3 times in
You're aware at
16
two? You
years.
remember being two? I have like one
Well,
memory
sort
being
of.
two. Yeah.
Well, in the sort of post I mean, my family might have moved maybe one time when I was an infant, but I was an infant, so it's like, well, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Anything after that, toddler being around 1 to 2 is when the socialization starts. I mean, we did move a couple of times, but we only moved once since I was 4 years old, and I'm now 21.
Okay.
And
So you're
yet,
right. I saw on in your bio that you're an aspiring father.
yeah, I've
What
wanted to be one since I was a baby.
So did I. I think when I was a baby, I probably wanted to be a mother. But like, what are you trying to do about that? Are you consider, is that something you have in your mind right now?
Well, as of now, I'm trying to make sure that every neurodivergent autistic, they're not quite the same, but autism is the largest subset.
Yeah.
Um, every neurodivergent person has access to the American way of life. And we've been denied the American way of life. The treatment we get is sort of like what you'd see in the Soviet Union, what you'd see in China, what you'd see in Cuba. What we get is communism. Where the government or government funds take care of us, usually based on assumptions without proper examination.
And that's why you want to
And
focus on the
not,
nuclear family as a counteraction to that.
yeah, I want to obviously have a nuclear family for one, and encourage other folks on the spectrum to do the same thing. And yet we're being forced to move schools. We do not have school choice. Like, I was never allowed to go to private school, I was never allowed to go to Christian school. Public school was the only option for me. And then not only that, public schools with AN programs. Those are the only schools I was allowed to go to. That's it. And in a county of a population of 300,000, there are 16 high schools. Only two of them have an AN program. So if you live in the peripheries, well, your school choice is dead. Like you're
Yeah.
forced to travel dozens of miles just to go to school. And I
Yeah.
think that's criminal. I think that's communism. It's evil, and I think it's a civil rights violation.
I think that
They do this
like
based on diagnosis.
having one of the largest predictors of antisocial behavior is peer group. I think it's like number fifth on the list. But as far as like things are going to change, number fifth on the list seems kind of important. Um,
Bit,
and
huh?
further, like the number one predictor of how well your kid does is how many other parents are involved in the kid's school. And there
Well,
are
my
situations
parents,
where that goes into a basically like kind of a negative spiral. And so there are schools that are like it's almost like an anti. This is probably an exaggeration, but it's almost like an antisocial factory. I've never seen one of those schools in person. I've just seen some startling data from it and know people who have worked at schools like that and what you see in TV. And
mm,
yeah, yeah. So the ability to what I'm forgetting it. Pursue your own destiny. What's in the Constitution? Pursuit of happiness, whatever. It's not that. It's not about
yeah,
happiness.
life, liberty, pursuit of happiness.
No, no, that's not the word I'm looking to. Self-determination. Like self-determination is the most
Yeah,
beautiful
self.
right a person can have. It like if you live your own life being told what to do, like I could imagine how
Yeah,
awful that would be. Um,
that's what they do in communist societies.
yeah,
The government tells you what to do. And if you growing up autistic, yeah, the parents are the ones who are supposed to not necessarily tell you what to do, but to dictate and sort of teach you how exactly you're supposed to live and how you're supposed to behave on your own. Like your parents are
yeah.
supposed to be more of a guide for you, and they were for me.
Mhm.
I've learned a ton from my parents. I'm probably more ready for parenthood than they were when I was first born. I'm their oldest, and they were extremely inexperienced. Like they had no clue what to do with me. I learned not only from watching them raise me, but my younger siblings. Like my youngest sister, I watched my parents raise her from birth all the way to she's 16 and a half now. So I've learned quite a lot from them, and they fought. At least my mother did. I don't know about my dad, but my mother definitely fought for me a lot, and kudos to her because if it weren't for her, I'd be a detransitioner at best right now. And the schools did everything they could to prevent her from fighting for me. Like they were trying to force me into infantile special education, and it was not working very well because mom was in the way. Parental authority was definitely bigger 15 years ago than it is now. But starting around the same time I was forced to move schools, this was a time where parental authority didn't matter to school districts anymore. Like it's like I don't care what the parents say. If the parents object, like they don't even need both parents' approval. They just had to get my dad to approve it. They manipulated my dad into consenting and believing that it was the only way I was going to succeed. And even today, I'm trying to explain to him that he's been manipulated.
So, have things improved in your life since these things happened, or have you made any progress forward? And how have you done that?
Well, the good news is I was only stuck in this situation for 1 year, and I was able to get back to my other school, the neighborhood school that my friends were at for 10th grade. But COVID sort of massively interrupted the recovery process. COVID is always the big focus that everyone talks about, but in my case, it's a very small part of a much deeper problem in this country. COVID is a very small part of my story. All it what it did was
I agree.
massively interrupt the recovery, and by the time it was over, I was already in my final year. 1 year isn't really enough to build relationships up to a super close level, and they were all going off to college after graduation. So it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? And of course, now I'm finding out that those that I can relate to are all going trans now. So I can't find peers that have been through what I've been through that are also straight. So we're being taken advantage of by the trans cult because of what we've been through, and then they promise us, oh, this will all be over if you go through the trans stuff.
Yeah. So how did your Christian beliefs come into this? And did that come before? Is that like an antidote of why you
Well,
saw that this is not a solution or something like that? I'm curious how that all fits in together. Like, because
well,
it's quite eclectic. I mean, it's Christian. autistic Maga. You know what I mean? And I'm
Pretty much.
interested how. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's for autistic people who know what's going on, and we're only a few and far between at this point. So we're trying to
Autistic
come
people.
together with the little, yeah, conservative autistic people and just autistic people who have common sense, those of us who understand better what's happened to us, what has been done to us, what's being done to us, and sort of the truth on how to fix it. And yet I cannot find that. All I can find are a bunch of gender ideologues that invented crazy terms that you've probably heard of if you've been in that mess. Like, I really started speaking out when I found out that a lot of detransitions, including the top well-known ones like Chloe Cole, Laura Becker, they're both on the spectrum.
Yeah.
I mean, and they talk about this a little bit. They are well aware that this is happening, worse to us than other groups. But I don't think it's being talked about enough, and certainly not the why. We have the what is going on, but we don't have the why. I'm the one who
I know.
has
I know
the
why.
answer to why,
Okay.
because I
Yeah.
just told you what my life was like. And
That didn't explain it though. Wait, wait, sorry. Why did trans come up for you though? Because of the lack of socialization and you wanted to get to know girls better? Because I'm pretty sure what it is. That's like a loose version of what it is.
well, that's I was not trans identified, but I know a lot of autistic kids who are also moved. Usually they move states or whatever, or they're forced to move schools as well. And then in a matter of months, they're trans. And then the next thing you know, the parents don't have custody of them anymore.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Parents will lose custody of their autistic kids
Yes.
because they went trans, and they went trans because they were not socialized and had a really hard time because they were moved in
So
some way. Maybe their family moved
parents are
states.
losing their kids because they're allowing their kids to transition. Is that what you said? That's what you said.
Well, no,
Or do you
they
mean the
my
other word?
the parents are opposed to the kids going trans. It's just
Yes.
the
Okay.
kids were convinced by other outside forces that they're trans.
And then taken away. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I was thought. I thought you said the reverse of that twice in a row.
yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm curious. Like, are you trying to date right now?
I've kind of just suspended those efforts altogether because I'm realizing just now that if I don't fight for my community, then it's going to be gone. I'm not going to have a community anymore.
What about fighting for yourself?
Well, I am fighting for myself, and in doing so, hoping to fight for the rest of the neurodivergent folk. Because we're in a slowly over time, there's
Yeah.
been this conform to the collective Marxist system that cannot accommodate anyone who is different.
Yeah. It sees everyone in like group sections. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. So I would say, when I was little, I was really obsessed with trying to solve like civil rights issues. I'm half black.
Mm,
I kind of have a legacy family. On my mom's side, the black side of my family, and
mm,
after a long time of trying to figure out like what is the right policy, what is the right issue to focus on, I realized the number one way to like dispel racism and discrimination is to show up work on time. It's to be a good worker. It's
right.
to have kids and stay there and be a good father.
It's
And
merit.
like I can only dispel racism on an individual level. I can't control other people think, especially because people are under the impression that like racism is the cause of inequality. That's not really true. It's more so, and the
No,
people want to hear that it's more so that inequality is the cause of racism, if I'm going to be honest. And that's like unfortunate to
I
say.
guess
You
that
know what I
does
mean?
make a
And
lot of
it
sense.
doesn't take a lot of inequality because the way the icons work in people's brains, you know what I mean? If you look at like the worst example of something, you put like those iconographer or whatever figures of images parts that are all together, and then you have an image of like, okay, that's that 1% extreme like image that I have to worry about, and you hold that in your head. And although that doesn't represent of everyone else, it's you know actually I think that's why Hollywood I think feels such guilt. It's because I think that they
Yeah,
can add a lot of control of the icons
that
and things like that.
that
And
makes a
so
lot of
like
sense.
yeah, but the best thing I can do is just on an individual level work. And also, I think number two is trying to see people as individuals. I'm not a big in the whole. I mean, maybe it's because I don't really have a very clear identity in any sense. But like I'm
Mhm.
not in big the whole of like identity group movement stuff. I think there is some important things from probably the I think the idea that especially making the idea of drawing the connection between autism and trans folks is very important to do. Because in fact,
Yes.
I don't see trans folks honestly pro trans people seem to have accepted that is a fact of the movement and don't see how that's absolutely catastrophic for their theory for gender theory basically.
Yeah.
And so drawing that connection is really important. But I think it would be like I don't know. I wish I think that I think I'd be happier if you were with if you were with someone. And by the way, sorry, I quite understand. When did you become a Christian?
Well, I meant to answer that.
Sorry.
I grew up in a very Christian household, and I've always been to a degree faithful. And I would pray if I had hard times, even in times where I didn't really prioritize it. And I'm definitely more faithful now than I've ever been.
Good.
Like Jesus did save me,
Good.
and ultimately holding on to that faith during the worst period of my life prevented me from going down the trans path.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
God
Yeah.
was like,
No, it's
"Oh
hard.
no, it's not
I'm
happening
learning
to
how to
you."
get Jesus into my heart. Like I'm actually it's something you actually have to learn. You know. And I was always like growing up, I was almost kind of worried to pray because I always felt like, oh, what if I pray or what if I like, call on Christ and I don't have the strength? Does that mean I'm just like, does that mean I'm doomed? You know what I mean? So
Well, it doesn't.
maybe I'll always gonna be
That
afraid to
does
call on
it.
Christ
It
for the
doesn't mean
longest
like that at all.
time. But I'm
There's a
realizing that
lot.
like, no, just always do it and it will work
Yeah,
over time. Like you'll improve if you always do it. And it will work
yeah,
eventually. I'm realizing
it
that.
makes sense. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of autistic kids who are like really afraid to do it because they're like, "What if I do it wrong? What if?" Well, we
Yeah.
have it's a very loving God. God will never disdain you ever. Like Christ
No.
is nothing but love.
It'll put you through
So
challenges, but you will never disdain you.
yeah, and prayer, even if you do it in not exactly the best sort of way. I mean, there's really no right or wrong way to pray. You just got to pray in the name of Christ. That's sort of all you need to do.
I think you can pray to demons. I think you can open yourself up to possession. I think all that stuff is real.
Oh yeah,
Um,
a lot. It happens to a lot of autistic kids.
really, you think so?
I think so because there's no set core values. There's no like spiritual connection
Hmm.
that Jesus is supposed to fill.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So practically, how are you organizing this movement, and how? Because I know you don't have a YouTube page or anything like that.
Well, I do have one, but it's like, did you see it?
I guess I assumed it'd be linked to your Twitter. I didn't see it was linked to your Twitter, so
Yeah,
I didn't think you had one.
yeah. I'm on X, Instagram, and Twitter, or excuse
On the
me,
same,
X,
just
Instagram,
in
and
the same
YouTube.
name.
In X, Instagram, YouTube. That's what I'm on. Um, so what was I gonna say? I forgot. I hate that so much.
You're good.
Um, yeah, but I okay, well, let me just describe something real quick. I was medicalized for having regular childhood feelings, even if they're more intense for us. It was normal childhood feelings. Any child will run off. I'm told it's because I ran off uncontrollably, which I think any kid would do that. Maybe if they want to go outside, maybe they want to go on a walk or something, maybe they want to play outside, something like that. Maybe that there's a number of reasons why that would happen. I don't think you should be putting kids on powerful psychotropic medication to do that, and it's having a
Yeah.
marked effect on my mind. So that's sort of what's happening right now. But I think I just remembered. I as of yesterday, I started a nonprofit called Autistic Freedom Network. I was designing the logo as
Autistic
I
Freedom
just
Network.
released. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and
Cool.
the goal is to provide an organization because there isn't an existing organization that's actually going to focus on the real issues and why we're actually struggling. So
Gotcha.
we're in a situation where the only groups available to us will really only help you if you're trans. They'll only help you if you're gay. They will never help you if you're conservative. They'll never help you if you voted for Trump. They'll never help you if you're a Christian. I mean, you can cover those up from them, but they're gonna find out. They'll put someone who's trans over you. I
Hmm.
mean, I can't say I know that for sure. I don't, but
Okay, yeah.
I I would imagine that they push this deliberately on their autistic clients. So there's no truth-based option for us. So I'm trying to provide a truth-centered sort of alternative to the existing organizations because I can't even find one that'll actually truthfully help us, that'll focus
Okay.
on the real issues, that'll focus on making sure we live the American way of life.
I have a question. When people refer to the autistic spectrum, do they give you like your distance in that spectrum, like in like standard deviations or anything like that? Or they just say you're on the
Like,
spectrum, or do you just say, like, is there a scale of autism?
um, not really. I mean, there's the sort of DSM-5 criteria, level 1 through 3. I'd say about 70% are level 1, then we got like 15% that are level 2, and then another 15% level 3.
What are you?
And I've definitely seen a lot of kids that do have a lot of the serious issues that RFK Jr. talks about. He's not wrong. He's
Is that
correct in a
level
lot of
three?
ways.
And
But I
that's the vaccine injured type of autism, is my understanding.
pretty much, in a way, yeah, that's, but most is the level 1 or the those of us that are healthy and capable with only mild symptoms, I guess you could describe it. At least
So
that's how they
are
title
you
it.
level one or level two?
Most certainly a 1. I mean, shoot. I don't even know. Like
What
it's
is
most
what
certainly
does
a
two
level
look
1.
like?
2 is sort of in between. Maybe you're probably an SSN, but more than likely you're still healthy and capable enough to live independently, even if society sort of groomed you to believe that that's impossible.
Is the difference between one and two severity or substance?
Usually a severity, but at
Okay.
least that's what it is in the DSM-5. But it's so flawed, and honestly, if the treatment is not that different for level ones than it is for level threes, it kind of defeats the entire purpose of the leveling system. It's really flawed. I mean, the
Do you
way
think the
they
treatment
label
should be
high
different?
function, what?
Do you think the treatment should be different?
All of it should be completely different. Like, there's way too much money, way too much corruption, way too much abuse and waste in these systems. Special needs is an abomination. It's not a type of person, it's not a medical condition, it's an industry. Like early intervention, medicalization, special education, and behavioral therapy are what I call the special needs industry. So any company that provides it, usually big pharma and schools and government and all the politicians and activists that prop it up, that's what I call, that's who I'm referring to when I say the special needs crazies, the special needs industry. And
Okay.
I think it's worth over $10 billion.
So I'm curious, where did you like learn about autism?
Well, I sort of learned about it as I went, but because there's so much conflicting information, like there's no way to know the truth behind it. Like I guess Nicole Shanahan made a pretty good video, and it was really helpful to me, like saying it's biomedical. She did ask the question, what is autism? I think the very, very, very first thing to do is define what autism is. That's what the detransitioners did. They defined what woman is. We had Matt Walsh did that documentary. So
So autism is
we
known as
didn't have
hyper masculine personality disorder, basically, and it's a tendency to systematize. So it's when you switch between just your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere. You can think about it like one hemisphere focuses on like targeting and speaking and like knowing facts and everything in a tight box, and the other one is more associated with like dance and like taking in new information. It's more like kind of like the platform of your thought. Women are more are less lateral, so they communicate more with both their hemispheres at the same time. It makes them really good for interpersonal
mm,
things because people kind of fit into that category. Versus, the whole phenomenon of mansplaining is associated with autism. You know what I mean? Yeah. So mansplaining and had the hypermasculine personality thing. go together, and then basically, and then you have this thing that like because it's so lateral that you go from completely knowing everything, and then I don't know where I am. And then that's why oftentimes autism people have like the fits of being upset and crying if you like move the table, you know, because they had an exact map of the whole place, and then suddenly you move the table and the room is completely different, and they don't know where they're at. You know what I mean? And so that's what autism is. It's a hypermasculine personality disorder thing.
Yeah, that's kind of conflicting because Nicole Shanahan called it biomedical, and there's a ton of
I don't know who that
hype
is. Who's Nicole?
of
Nicole Shan? You mean RFK's running mate?
RFK's former running mate. Yeah,
Okay.
and she interviewed
She said
Chloe
it was
Cole a couple
biomedical.
times. What? Yeah, she said biomedical, and there are
How
a
does that
ton.
contradict what I just said?
What?
Is she talking about the vaccine injuries? Because I'm not talking about the vaccine injuries.
I can't remember what it is. It was like in February
She's
that I
probably
watched
talking
it
about
months
that.
ago.
She's
But
talking saying it's biomedical.
yeah, she said there was like something going on. And not to
Yeah.
mention, there's a ton of really hyper
I don't even want to call it
feminine
autism.
autistic women.
Hyper
There's a lot
feminine
of
autistic
really feminine
women.
autistic women. They're not masculine anyway. Not stereotypically.
I would need to look at the individuals you're talking about, but I would doubt it. Like by definition, that's what autism is. It's known in the personality research as hypermasculine personality disorder.
So if
I mean,
a
I read that
woman
from
is
Charles Murray.
autistic, they're more likely to identify as a man and be trans.
Sure.
But I'm gonna have to kindly disagree because I think there are just as many women as there are men on the spectrum. And
No, there's not.
you say
That's
it's
not
hyper
true.
masculine.
There's
We
way more
don't
men
know
on the
that.
spectrum.
We don't know that for sure. There's
Now,
not enough information.
unless now, I think to some degree they're doing like almost like an affirmative action where they're doing it a gender adjusted autism diagnosis that's
Right.
separate for boys and girls. But no, that's just modern bullshit that has nothing to do with actually what's going on. Like it's yeah. So do they they have different diagnostic criteria, you know. But
Yeah, so
there's lots of modern bullshit that's gonna blow up in our faces, you know what I mean? So yeah.
well, personally, I believe because autism is so different in women, then because that would explain why they're not diagnosed. And it's most likely not this hyper masculinized personality thing that you're talking about.
That's not my
Because the
opinion.
criteria for it is this masculine identity, or maybe not identity, but
There's actually
masculine.
morphological differences in the brain. It's not like a
In
this is I'm not just I think you should focus on getting a girlfriend, bro. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because I don't
as
think
if
you
I
know
didn't,
much about this, and I don't think you've actually
as if
started
I
moving in this
haven't tried to do
direction.
that for 10 years. 10 years. It doesn't take people 10 years.
Yes, it does.
No,
Yes,
it
it
doesn't.
does.
People get girlfriends in 10 hours or even 10 minutes. I've
Well,
seen
those
people
people
get
are very
girlfriends a
attractive,
week after
man.
they move into the place.
Yeah.
So there's
I
something
mean,
going on here where it's taking them a lot less than 10 years to go on their first set of dates.
okay. Well, this is actually we got this is where the issue is actually. The goal should not be to focus on being a girlfriend, getting a girlfriend. The goal should be probably just being like putting yourself together, I think. Like learning how to like be more we only have 5 minutes left in this. Do you want to
Oh,
continue this on another time? Do you want to do a call at the end of this here? Or do you want to do another
I
30 minutes?
honestly, I think it'd be better to do this on the 15th,
All right,
as
yeah,
I
no, I
said.
like that too. I agree. This is actually a really like dense, I don't want to meander. This is actually a very dense, little solid, like little thing. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but what we're seeing here is we can't really agree on what
Yeah, please.
autism is, even in our own sphere. We just can't agree on what it is.
Okay.
So, because I'm getting completely different answers on the question, what is autism? Because you say it's this hyper masculinization disorder, but others say it's biomedical, others say it's
Well,
this
that's
other
the
thing and then that other thing. It's
there's
like,
obviously there's some that come a consequence of vaccine injury, and those are something different. But
yeah, I,
traditionally, yeah,
I
those
do
aren't the
think
same thing.
vaccine injury should be classified as a separate thing from autism itself. But
I agree because
I
autism
do,
as a word. Okay, so the problem is autism as a definition just means speaking issues at like age three. It's like delayed speaking by age three, which is a lot of different things. You know what I mean? That could be a million different things, including the
that's what
vaccine
got me
injury. But the
diagnosed.
broadest category of that we're talking about is an over systematic thing it's over systematizations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's the issue. But
it's a thing oriented brain, not a social oriented brain.
yeah, sort of in a way. Yeah. And what got me diagnosed so young, I wasn't even 2 years old yet. My speech came in just a little later. I think it came in around 2 instead of 1.5. So I think that's what got me diagnosed.
Gotcha. I have no idea when baby starts speaking, to be honest. That'll be a surprise when I have my baby. But yeah, but attraction is also hard because I would say like for boys and girls, dating is different. Um,
Yeah.
and there's pluses and minuses, but I would say that if you're a guy, this is going to be bad and good. Um, your attraction is like completely dependent on you in a way, because there are guys who are short that I mean, obviously being tall, being like symmetrical or being handsome and stuff like that help. But you can learn to be more extroverted. I think you can learn to be more interesting and
Yeah.
funny. You can learn and be diligent and get at better at a job. You know what I mean? And if you get like your nest set up where you work
Yeah.
hard at the same job for a long time and
Oh,
you actually build something up and it
yeah.
actually works and you learn how to do that, and then you create an apartment that's a nice little nest. You know what I mean? Like all that is going
So,
to be
like,
perfect. And if you're
I'm
like
already
that
working on that.
alone will go a lot
I've
of ways.
actually
So
kind of always been pretty outgoing, and I'm already working on the latter stuff with getting myself out into the world. It's just when you're autistic and you didn't really experience childhood because of the special education stuff, it's really hard for you to get started. Like, you could apply to thousands of places, and only like 10 of them will see, only 10 applications will be reviewed by human eyes.
I got you.
10 out of 1,000, like a 1% chance of being reviewed by human eyes.
Trust me, dude.
It's
There
unbelievable
are
for the
job.
Gen
There,
Xers.
yeah. There always be a place that needs a job, even if it's a garbage man, even if it's whatever. You know what I mean? And all those things. Honestly, I would work a garbage man like that. To be honest, those are
Yeah,
good
well,
paying jobs,
I'm not
and you get
exactly
to be
that
done for the
kind
whole
of
day.
I'm not exactly that kind of person. I'm focusing on making sure that millions of people who are capable of doing really great things are able to do those great things and not have to spend 15 years as the garbage man.
Well, you should figure out how to do that for yourself then first. You know what I mean?
Well, I
How are you going
am.
to make sure other people don't have to do that when you're
I'm
not doing
doing
it?
nonprofits. I'm doing nonprofits right now.
Oh, okay,
And
gotcha,
I'm
gotcha.
trying to
Okay,
get my story out. But I think the very beginning is define autism and have a set definition for it that everyone can agree on. Like we do
okay.
woman, XX chromosomes, adult human female.
It's not the best definition, but it works.
Well, that's what we've come up with, and it works really well. So we got to do the same thing for
The gender
autism.
critical people will take that apart a little bit. And honestly, like if I'm going to be honest, like the definition of anything is not material. I don't even know. I don't think I have
Well,
like
whatever.
I can't give you the
We
ultimate
just
definition of what a woman is. I really can't. But I will say one that works better than what you just said. It's the sex that bears more energy during reproduction. That's what a woman is, or its function is to bear more energy during reproduction. Because there's a lot of
yeah,
variation
you're
between different species and things like that, even in humans about X and Y chromosomes. But that will work consistently. Trust me. If you just say that, you'll win. That's the actual technical. You can't get past that, as far as I know. So, yeah. That's better than XX. Actually.
but yeah, well, we're gonna define autism, and personally, to me, I don't. You can think whatever. I'm not gonna force you to change anything, but I personally believe it's not a hyper masculine thing. I think it's so different in girls that it people haven't classified it as autism yet. So
Got you.
yeah, so the goal is to be open to as much information. Yes, I've been hearing this sort of thing myself a lot, but personally, to me, I just think that and I mean, I guess maybe part of it is just the fact that I don't have potential partners. If it's 4 to 1, 3 and 4 autistic men won't get married. And if they do, they're going to have a horrible marriage.
Well, that's a bad note to end, I feel, but it's all right. We'll talk later, Sven.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming on.